What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for on SPY, Tesla, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there. I'm going to break down some important levels, what data is coming out in just a couple of minutes that's going to affect the markets, and what else is coming out for today that's going to move the markets going forward. Before I break anything down about all this information, all this data, and what these technicals are telling us in the pre-market for this update, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you put in $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $100 cash reward and even more benefits after that. The offer ends very soon. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, so looking at Tesla, this thing is down 0.51% as of right now, and we are 1 minute away from initial jobless claims being released. So please get ready for that. SPY is now very flat. We are forming once again this nice wick right here after it did just barely touch and get this false break below this 426 level. Now initial jobless claims are coming out, so we're seeing more volatility. Market's moving right now. And now let's look at the numbers. So they just came out like the second I said that. Let's see if this comes out once this updates. They're about to come out. So this is going to be very interesting. The market's reacting right now. And the data is taking just another couple of seconds. But anyways, before I talk about that, just remember, guys, for Thursday, we have DocuSign earnings after the market closes. Today is Thursday, so we have some earnings. Then Friday, we have NIO's earnings. NIO is going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Just as a reminder, today is going to be the final day when the market closes before NIO's earnings. And I'm expecting a very interesting move for now. NIO is up about 1.46 in the pre-market, getting very close to this $8 level. It is getting slowed down by the market. We do have this imbalance down here, so be careful with it. But like I said before, it was getting very tight yesterday, and there's a good chance it's going to make a bigger move. So get ready for that. I want to see how NIO responds to these levels. Now we're going to see the market. SPY is up just a tiny bit after initial jobless claims came out. The market's up a tiny bit. Now let's look at the numbers. They should be out. I don't know why this is taking so long. Looking at the data, there we go. Initial jobless claims were higher than expected by a long shot, right? The jobs market is starting to show lots of weakness. Unemployment is starting to go up big time. We have 261,000 initial jobless claims versus the consensus of 235,000, which is also the forecast. The 4-week average was 237,000 versus the forecast of 230,000. Continuing jobless claims is basically close to expectations. These numbers are very hot right now. And that tells us that there's a tightening in the labor market, which is what Jerome Powell and the Fed were after. So that's once again, the market wants this. The economy wants this, and now the market's pumping a little bit off of this because this is going to help slow down inflation a lot more. This is what the stock market wants. Now the market is getting a somewhat positive reaction as of right now, but it's very, very minor. I mean, we're not up like a crazy ton. We're only up like 0.13% on SPY because of it. Very, very minor reaction, at least for now. But we have to talk about these levels in a lot more detail. Now, at the levels the market's at, we're at extreme greed. So be careful. Once again, the market is still overextended to some degree. And that's why we ended up seeing the QQQ sell off quite a bit. Same thing with SPY. There's not much going on in the news, at least for the time being. But now let's break down these charts. What's going on with all these levels? All right. So when it comes to SPY, watch 427.5 again as the major resistance. As you can see, it's having a hard time to just break out very hard. It's still very, very tight. And if it breaks that, then 428, then there's 428.5. If we're bearish, okay, you're going to be watching some support at this like 426.5 area. It's very, very close to that. I mean, we're not that far from it as of right now. And then if that fails us, 426 flat is very, very significant support because the buyers keep stepping in and trying to defend this area. So we're still stuck in our range, but here's the thing. Like I told you guys yesterday, the 4-hour time frame is looking more bearish than before on this technical setup. So the odds do favor this continuing to chop a little bit for like the shorter term, looking at the 1 hour, but then eventually getting that break below. There's a high probability of that, but we don't have a confirmation yet, so just be open-minded. But I just want to note there's a good chance it's going to happen looking at the 4-hour time frame. It's looking weak on SPY. And if it does break 426, okay, it's going to come all the way down to this imbalance at the 424 level, and then even lower than that to the lower 420s. But that's going to be your pivot point. Watch that very, very closely. For now, it's only up 0.08%, so it's not really popping too much. Netflix is now just barely above 400. It's going to be fighting for 400 as support. If it fails, it's going to make its way closer to the 50 EMA. If it doesn't, it could go all the way up to 404 plus. For Tesla, it's only down now about 0.23%. Tesla's trying to fight and hold the 225 zone. For now, the technicals look kind of choppy. It's looking a little weak on the 4 hour. On the 1 hour, it's still looking okay, not as weak as like the 4 hour in my opinion, but still pretty decent. So now what I'm seeing for Tesla is it's very choppy right now, right? Back and forth and back and forth. 222.16 was the low of the pre-market for now, and it's rejecting off this 225 resistance. If it breaks down, I'm going to be watching for 221 to 220 being tested. I talked about this yesterday, and if that fails, it's going to come all the way down to about 218 to 217. There could be a decent amount of support there because it does chop around there a lot, and the odds are favoring it cooling off just a little bit more. But like I said before, I'm simply saying it's like a cool off, right? Because I told you guys closer to like these higher levels is when we got the bearish signals on Tesla, and that's when it started dropping. It could drop more, but the thing is, I'm not saying it's going to continue dropping like and get like a knife or anything like that. It could try to hold at one of these levels, especially like 221 or even 218 to 217. So watch those supports very carefully, depending on where it goes. I do think it's going to likely drop a little bit more, but it could try to hold, and we could still see buyers try to hold it up, especially around like 218 or so. Now, if Tesla wants to pop to the upside, 225 is going to be resistance, then 227. So watch those levels carefully. On the QQQ, it's a little bit green in the pre-market is trying to get its way above the 50 EMA. Let's look at the 1 hour time frame though, just for extra confirmation. On the 1 hour, it has resistance at this 350 area. It's still fighting for that, and then 352 is where the 50 is on the 1 hour. But it's sandwiched between the 50 and the 200. The 200 EMA is around 347 right now. It's going to likely go back and forth between them. We are getting a bullish cross in the 1 hour, so it's going to try to bounce a little bit. So this could help Tesla and the market bounce just a tiny bit into open. But like I said before, when you look at the bigger time frames, like the 4 hour, it's still looking weak. So we could get a small bounce into open, then see more downside later on. The trend is still looking in favor of the bears on the bigger trend. But on the smaller trend, there is still, some more fluctuations, maybe more attempts for it to chop around, trade sideways, and then continue to be sandwiched between the 50 and the 200. That's what I'm seeing on it. So it could pop just a little bit more into the open, trade sideways, and eventually downtrend. That's what the trend is telling us right now. NIO is up almost 2% now. It's continuing to fight. Really hoping this thing could break to the upside. I'm still leaning more bullish on NIO. The setup just looks really nice on the 4 hour. I'm going to be watching this one carefully, guys. This is a good one. The reason for that is because on the 4 hour, it has this clear inverse head and shoulders that's playing out, a cup and handle, and a bullish divergence all at once. And you could see it's been uptrending since, right? It's continuing to uptrend, making higher highs and higher lows. So it's a nice setup. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to fly because of earnings, not a guarantee, of course. But you have to remember that their numbers in Q1 were not that bad. Their Q1 numbers were not as horrible. And the reason for that was it just includes the first 3 months of the year. NIO's numbers got worse after the fourth month, and that's when things started to slow down. But remember, a company's earnings is not solely just based off EPS and revenue. Even if NIO doesn't have the best earnings alone, it could make a massive move depending on guidance and what the CEO says. And William Li Bin has a tendency of, you could say he exaggerates, or at least he likes to promise good things to investors. So I'm going to be watching this carefully. I think the odds greatly favor it eventually breaking well above 8.2. But once again, with this nice looking setup, always be cautious and open-minded because the earnings are always risky, and manage risks in the process. But like I said before, I like the setup, and I think there's a high probability of it eventually pushing above 8.2. The dollar is down just a little bit. This could be helping the market just a bit. That's why SPY is kind of green. Aapl is a little bit in the green too. We're going to be watching if this thing could hold above the 50 EMA around this 178 area. If it does do so, could make its way closer to 180 and help the market pump just a tiny bit more. But Remember what happened yesterday? It pumped and then it got a big rejection and ended up coming down. If it breaks below the 50 EMA around the support at 177.74, expect it to retest the low from yesterday around the 176.87 level. And if that fails us, 175 is going to come and that's going to slow down the market. So watch the 50 EMA on the 1 hour time frame and the 4 hour on Apple. Nvidia is trying to bounce. Hopefully Nvidia can keep going. I'm liking how Nvidia is looking right now. It's trying to be a little bit resilient. But on the bigger time frame, it's still looking quite bearish, okay? So I like the fact that it's trying to make its way to tag this upper trend line. We could see it retest 382 or so, but if it rejects from here, you're going to be watching the 50 EMA as support at 375. If that breaks, there's a high probability Nvidia is going to come down to 370, if not even lower than that. So the trend still looks more bearish on Nvidia. There's no confirmation of a true bounce. There is some attempt for it to hold the 50, and it's going to be fighting this resistance right here in the very low 380s. If it breaks that, 385 could come or so, but once again the trend still looks more bearish, so it's eventually going to likely make its way back down. We're going to be watching the 50 EMA if that holds or not. All right, so anyways, that's like my morning update. I know Amazon's kind of green right now. It's getting this like reactive bounce. It could try to make its way closer to about the 124 level. I know I mentioned that yesterday, and I told you guys we might see a small bounce in Amazon before it continues, but I don't see a big confirmation on the 4 hour. The 4 hour still looks weak on Amazon, so even if it does bounce a little bit, it might get a rejection in the very like mid to lower like 120s, like 124 or so, and then continue to drop, right? This is almost looking like a bear flag, not 100% confirmed, but it's a possibility. Anyways, so watch these levels. The market might get a short-term balance. I mean, SPY is still a little bit green after initial jobless claims came out, but the bigger time frames, the bigger trend is still a little bit more in favor of the bears. So make sure you watch support and resistance. SPY is looking stronger than the QQQ, so don't forget that. And just note that right now the bigger trend is favoring the bears. The smaller trend still shows signs of the market trying to hold, and you have to watch for that confirmation. The bigger trend tells us there's a high probability eventually SPY will break down below the 426 level, but like I said before, you got to wait for it to happen to get the confirmation. But like I said before, there's still a high probability of that happening, and do what you guys have to do. All right, guys, this was kind of a long update, but I want to thank you all for listening. Also, don't forget about the fact that I have a new microphone right now. So if you like this one better, please comment down below and let me know. I'm going to use this one instead if this sounds a lot better and louder. If not, if this is not what better than the old one, then I could just continue switching to something new. But anyways, thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this pre-market update very briefly, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Market to the moon as the long term is very bright, and peace out.